So Pat, obviously special teams are a little bit limited in the spring. You
Yeah.
start ramping up during preseason. Are you completely ramped up? How far into this are you in terms of being comfortable with where special teams are at?
I don't know if you're comfortable right now. We still got a little ways to go. Probably our biggest thing we want to get out of this camp is just trying to put a lot of young guys that don't have a lot of game experience in situations that they haven't been in. You know what I mean? That's the one thing about special teams, unlike offense and defense, where you've got some rhythm to what you're doing and some certainty to it. Throughout the game, you're going to be presented with some situations that maybe you don't have an emphasis on or haven't done in a little bit. So it's just doing a lot with some guys that have limited experience, trying to put that in throughout camp.
Looks like you got a place-kicking battle. So how do you stress those people with game pressure when it's practice? How does that work?
Coach Rod does a pretty good job with that. And that's the thing is then it's tough to really create that environment that they'll see, on game day, but you try your best and, you do things throughout practice randomly, because a lot of times during a game, we don't have a big heads up when we're going to have to go out and perform. And, sometimes it's under situations where limited time or play clock. Sometimes you got a little bit more of a dead ball play and you can go out there and do that. So we've been doing our best that we can to put them in those situations. We still got some work to do, and thank goodness we still got some time in camp to get it done.
What do you, in particular, like to see in somebody to show that they should be the returner?
Accountability. Yeah. I mean, everybody looks at the front returners from the standpoint, hey, do they have the big play potential, which is great, and that's exciting. But first and foremost, they got to be accountable to make good decisions back there. When to catch it, when to field it, when not to, when to make a fair catch. Make sure that the scheme that we have for the return, they're hitting it in the right place. Those are the biggest things, so accountability is first. And then you couple that with their athletic potential, which, all those guys have the potential for the big play, which is exciting as well.
How also do you think, because everyone also kind of tries to evaluate returners and how many return touchdowns does the player have, but
Sure.
somebody whose average is way better and getting field position better could actually be maybe a better returner than someone who gets one TD a year. How do you kind of try to evaluate that, the mix of that? Someone might hit a big play, but somebody else is doing better every single day overall.
Absolutely. I mean, people don't realize sometimes when you're a punt returner and that ball hits the ground and rolls for an additional 17 yards, it's a huge play. I tell those guys a fair catch is almost as good as a return at times. And you got to have the courage, sometimes to field that ball and make a fair catch in some chaos. So that is a really big part, and that's where the accountability comes in. We've got to trust that person to make a good decision, when to get away from it, when to make a fair catch, and when they've got the opportunity to create a return for themselves.
Do you look for the same things out of kick returners, or is it different?
Kick return is a little bit different. We've got some time to make a decision. A lot of times before we go out on the field, we'll try to educate them on what we're looking for, and that plays a role with really game situations, where we're at in a game, what the score is. But guys, special teams, such a big field position battle. And really there you're looking for the guy that can catch the ball, get vertical, and get positive yardage for you and, start your offense in a good place.
We inherited a guy that's got experience doing that in Fox. He's got a lot of game experience. What have you seen from him?
I've seen a senior with a lot of game experience, making good decisions. He's a great leader during practice. He's taken some of those young guys and encouraged them and kind of shared some of his experiences with them, which is really important. But he's doing a great job thus far, and I'm excited to have him back.
Well, I was going to ask you, too, doing live special teams is risky.
Sure.
But you have to do something. How much do you need to get an idea of who does what and what you can do?
You try to, when it is very risky to go live special teams. You try to keep it a controlled environment, because at the end of the day, we've got to get these guys to game day, for them to perform. So we'll do some things with some half-line stuff on punt and punt block and maybe just a little bit of, go to thud or some stuff on kickoff and kickoff return, just to try to get them as close to game-like situations as we can. You've got to do it because they need to be put in that environment, but you've got to limit them because there is the potential for risk there.
just from past experience with some of the issues that West Virginia's had in the past on kickoff, it seems like the teams that kick the ball into the end zone are the best coverage units.
Oh, yeah.
I guess that's the secret. Find a guy that can kick it in the end zone.
Absolutely. You put the ball in the end zone and you can kind of eliminate that return. And it's not just putting it in the end zone. If we get a guy that's going to kick against us, put it 2 or 3 yards deep with limited hang time, we can bring it out. So it's finding that guy that can put the ball 5 to 7 yards deep, but also with some pretty good hang time. So it gives the coverage an opportunity to get down there. That's the big thing.
Does the Tulane kid seem to be the guy that can do that?
It's still we're competing. We're still evaluating, but a couple of those guys have done a good job, including him.
Okay.
Ollie's been highly thought of pretty much his whole career. When you got here, what do you see out of him that he does so well?
The diversity he brings to the scheme. Last year he was very much what we call that rugby style kicker, which is great to have. But people don't realize he's very good at staying in the pocket and doing the pro style kick, which we call the spiral kick. So he has the opportunity to do that. He's got a really quick operation and he's got a strong leg. Not just from a distance standpoint, but just hang time where your coverage gets time to get down the field.
Talk to you about kicking with both legs?
No, but nothing's out of the possibility.
Who else last time you were coaching this program, you had some assistant coaching experience at the D3 and D2 level, but now coming back, you had about a decade of head coaching experience,
Sure.
right, at Charleston?
Yeah.
How does that help you or change you as a coach and better, what do you bring from that experience that you might not have brought your first stint here at WVU?
I think when you learn from being a head coach, very similar to being in special teams, you deal with all the position groups. Where everybody gets into, hey, who's the holder, the snapper, the kicker, the returners? Well, we got to find guys from, the DB room, the linebacker room, the tight end room, guys that can block, guys that can cover kicks. So, just having that ability to visit with the different, and I evaluate those guys that have the skill set that they can bring to the special teams room and help you out from that standpoint.
Who else is
He's been
working
involved with special teams for a long time. Both stints here, obviously a lot of other places too. Did that just kind of happen, or were you interested in it? Was that something you were focused on?
I think if your ambition is to be a head coach, which always has been, and I was blessed to have a great opportunity, you want to be versed in all 3 aspects of the game. And special teams, guys, it's 18 to 22% of the snaps during a game. Coach Rod does a great job of putting us in a position during practice where, it reflects the number of snaps you get in a game we get during practice. And there is a big emphasis put on the special teams. I've been blessed to be at some places and around some other staff that have had great experience that I learned a great deal from. And, obviously my background was traditionally on defense and being a defensive coordinator for quite some time. That carries over to the special teams, But I, blessed for the opportunity and the responsibility. And I think we got a really good group of guys that want to compete at a high level in that room.
You talk about returners a lot, and obviously defenders that can tackle.
Yeah.
Are there guys that just have a knack for one of those other things that might not be the greatest players at a position on offense or defense, but become great special teamers?
Absolutely. It's a long football season, and you play a lot of snaps. And a big goal is to manage those snaps, and you want to have guys that, put you in the best position to have success on special teams, but also if you can steal a base and, maybe they're not getting the number of reps on offense or defense, but they're great teamers, as we say. We're going to look to those guys, and a lot of those younger players, it's an opportunity for them to display their skill set. And, we're blessed to have some guys that take a lot of pride and execute at a high level on those teams, so that plays a really big part in it.
Who besides Ollie working as your punters, and then who else who is holding?
Well, we've got Ollie. Ollie now is taking over a lot of those holding responsibilities. We've got about 3 or 4 guys that can hold for us. Traditionally, you like those guys that during practice may not be participating in another position as much because they can get that work. And that operation between a snapper, holder, and kicker, it has got to be like a symphony. Everything has got to be on the same note at the same time, every single time. So you've got to get that through practice and repetition. So you like to keep that in a specialist room, but we've also got some guys on offense that have the ability to help us out there as well.
And your other punters besides Ollie?
Yeah, we've got about 3 or 4 guys. RJ is a guy that can do both, and really all the kickers can do both, with the exception of Ethan. He's focused on the kicking part of it, but we're blessed to have about 3 guys that we can turn to help us out punting wise. But Ollie Straw is doing a really good job right now.
Another question about the live aspect of practicing special teams. Because you don't do so much, there's a lot more unknowns for you going into a game. Walk me through your thought process of the things that are going through your mind. That first time you got to line up for kickoff,
Sure.
or field goal protection, or all of that. What are you thinking about?
Well, one of the things during camp, we've got a list of pages on pages of specific situations that we want to make sure we cover with those guys. And some of it's through walkthrough, some of it's through live situations, some of it's kind of controlled scrimmage stuff. It's really just educating those guys, hey, if this happens, this is how we want to handle it. And just trying to get through that list as quickly and as many times as you can, because you can't script a game, and things come up, and so you want to educate these guys, and that's the biggest thing. People think football is just, hey, go down there and eat weights, run fast, jump high. There's a lot of good athletes out there that don't translate into good football players, because cognitively you've got to put yourself in a position to be able to make good decisions. And our job as coaches is to help them with those decisions when they come up in a game.
So those things that you go through, does that ease Coach Kirkland's anxiety going into that first game?
Yeah, to some extent. I don't know how much. Not enough, but we try our best. And, I've been blessed to do this now. I think this is going on year 25, 26 at the college level. And so that list went from a half a page now to about 2.5 pages that we want to make sure that we get through.
So till you get through that first kickoff, it's...
Absolutely. Yeah, no, we're still... Yeah, anxiety's there. It happens. Yep.
In the transfer portal, what is the quantity, the competition like for a place kicker? Because like similar to quarterback, there are not a lot of them that can do it. Otherwise, everybody would. And you can only play one, so there's gonna be a lot of them in there too. I don't know. Is it high price? Maybe not high price. Highly competitive. You'd be very picky. How does that work?
It's highly competitive, but I also think kicking can be a little bit easier to evaluate. You watch a kicker's highlight tape, and they don't show their misses on there. So you definitely want to go to and watch the game footage and the game film. But now you got to couple it with a couple things. When you're looking at kickers, you want a strong leg, but accuracy is important. With our offense and as tempo and fast as we go, it creates a lot of opportunities for kickers. So when we get down there, we want to make sure we have a guy that we're comfortable with, that we can get points when we need them.
As you were picking a kickoff guy this year, right? We
Yeah.
talked about that.
Well,
Sure,
it's
put it to the uprights, right? But maybe it's windy and you can't do it that day, and he better be able to do something else. Like, it's not just who has the strongest leg here, but how much of it is who has an array of kicks.
Your ball placement's got to match your coverage. So we need guys that when we say we want the ball between the numbers and the hash, he's got to get the balls between the number and the hash. If we want to do some alternative kicks, they've got to get to where we got to get to, because that's where the coverage is expecting it to be.
How do you identify guys on field goal block that could potentially block the field goals, either up the middle or off the edge?
Yeah, absolutely. They've got to have some twitch to them. Guys that can get their feet underneath their hips, come off the ball, play low to high, and obviously some length helps there. Having some guys that are a little bit longer that can get their hands up, and kickers and snappers and the holders, the operation's getting better and better. So finding guys that can get some push for you always helps.
What kind of influence and help has Preston Fox been? Sorry. What kind of help has Preston Fox been to have him around since he's done the returner role?
He's just a great young man. He's an experienced guy, and when you share that with younger players, I think that's invaluable for your program. And he does a great job. Tremendous leader, tremendous individual. Yep.
Coach, going back to your Charleston group, Bruce, your former player, also a guy that coached with you at Charleston, Mike Tesh, just kind of walk me through what you like with that program now in the hands of under Tesh's leadership.
Coach Tess is a great young man. He coached receivers for me and did a lot of responsibilities. And yeah, I'm happy for him. He's earned it, and wish him nothing but the best. And that program's in good hands.
Okay, thank you very much.
Great, thanks, guys.